Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 138 of the Terminal City FC podcast. Got the episode wrong last week. Part of the Area 51 Sports Network. Josh Roy joined alongside Nathan Durek as per usual, talking all things soccer. Happy 4th of July to everyone down in the United States. And we're live on Area 51 Sports Network, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and the Terminal City FC podcast Twitter page. So we got a lot to talk about today, but as always, let's start with the Vancouver Whitecaps. 2 straight wins for them. That's 4 wins in their last 6 games. And we'll start with last Saturday, a crazy, frantic 4-3 win over St. Louis City SC at BC Place.
Yeah, let's just say the first 15 minutes weren't all that pretty.
No.
Bloom got the first goal.
Yep.
Kind of a weird one. It was a poor clearance. It basically barely made it just outside of the 18-yard box. The shot back in took a really big deflection off the back of Levante Johnson, which there's nothing he could do. He was too close to even try to move out of the way other than just show his back so he didn't get a handball. And initially, actually, from the booth, I thought it went on the other side of the post. I thought it was not a goal. It took me a few seconds to realize that it had just gotten past Takioka on that near post.
It just squeezed past him.
Yeah.
And the deflection threw him off.
It would have thrown anyone off. Without the deflection, he was set up in a decent position. Deflection made him have to react. He got hands on it, but not strong enough.
Yeah, and then things got worse. Javane Brown, the handball in the box, and St. Louis scores on the penalty kick.
It's a handball. It
was a clear handball.
Like, I felt bad for Brown because he slipped on the turf.
Yeah, courtesy of Edward Lowe.
Had his hands down so he doesn't hurt himself, and the ball just hit his hand.
Nothing you could really do.
That's a tough one
about that. But
that's 12 minutes in, and they're down 2-0 and starting.
Yeah, and we were sitting in the press box saying, "Oh boy, this is ugly."
Yeah.
And then credit to the Whitecaps for just not giving up. After the goal, St. Louis kind of stopped pushing forward, and the Whitecaps slowly got back into the game. And then Brian White in the 37th minute, great ball by Sebastian Berhalter, I believe. Ball goes off Jake Nerwinski and into the net. So former Whitecaps player helping out his former team.
Getting this goal before the half was massively important. Giving you that before the half gives you belief that in another 45 minutes you can get something done. Either play and get a tie, go up and get 2 more. It changes, and especially because you're the team that scored last. It's not 2-1, and they got the last goal and went ahead. It's that you've cut the deficit in half. It changes the environment of the locker room.
Yeah, and it gives you momentum. And heading into the second half, the Whitecaps had momentum on their side. They were moving the ball quite well in the second half. And, the passes were great. And then Brian White scores probably the goal of the season for the Whitecaps. One of the strangest goals, one of the most aesthetically pleasing goals. It's Pushka's winning goal.
You got to put it up there.
Yeah, and Jake Nerwinski again.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut this off. My fire alarm is going off.
Oh,
so yeah, sorry, man. I've got to take off.
All right. So what do we do?
Well, I will be back when I can. If you want to continue, or
I'll continue. I'll just continue rambling.
We'll see you in a bit.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, Nathan's fire alarm, or you can probably hear, is going off. And I thought it was mine first. Hopefully, it's a false alarm there. But what was I saying? So Brian White scores probably the most bizarre goal I've seen live, at least. Jake Nerwinski deflects it, and it goes off White's foot when he wasn't even trying to do it for a scorpion goal. And you could see his reaction have to go like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. But a goal is a goal, right? And you take it, especially because it tied up the game. And gotta say, I was impressed by Ryan Raposo in that game. He was moving the ball well, made some good passes, and he got the assist on the hat trick goal from Brian White, and just a perfect header, perfect cross, and the Whitecaps took the lead in the 61st minute. Brian White, second career hat trick in MLS. His obviously second with the Whitecaps, and the first Whitecaps player to get more multiple hat tricks in their MLS era. The other players to have had a hat trick were Kakuta Mane, Christian Techera, and of course Camilo. But White has done it twice, and he got his last hat trick on October 2nd, 2021, I believe, against the San Jose Earthquakes. But this game, the Whitecaps started defending the fort well as St. Louis slowly got back into the game, and Fafa Pico got on board to pretty much seal the deal. Not before St. Louis scored thanks to Novicki, like a few minutes after. And thank goodness for the Fafa Pico goal, because that goal would have sucked the life out of them. And good thing they sealed the deal pretty early, or earlier, rather. So it wasn't the best game for the Whitecaps. It wasn't the best start, and it wasn't like the most prettiest. But a win is a win, and that start could have been much worse. But credit to the Whitecaps for just fighting back, for clawing their way back. And this is the first time they come back from 2-0 down since that famous comeback in Portland in, I believe, October of 2021. So after that, it was off to Minnesota, a place where they have not won in their MLS since Minnesota came into the league. And while the game against St. Louis was a bad start, this one was a really good start. Excuse me. Michael Boxall again. We got a former Whitecap helping out his former team. Boxall, I don't know what he was thinking with that back pass, trying to pass it back to the goalkeeper, who, by the way, was making his first MLS start. And I don't know, like that was just a really poor back pass. Brian Gall takes advantage, and then Brian White with the tap in. 4 goals in 2 games for Brian White. And just as I said, once he gets one, he's hard to stop. And sure, it was a pretty easy goal, but again, a goal is a goal, and Brian White has said he'll just take all the goals he can get. And then 17th minute, just a perfect cross from the short corner from Gall to Matias Laborda for a pretty solid header. And given the form Laborda has been in the past few weeks or months or whatever you want to call it, that's got to feel good for him. It's got to give him confidence. And no one was marking him. He had all that space and just timed the header perfectly. But just not even 30 minutes into the game last night, it was wild, it was chaotic. There were fouls, yellow cards. Not only were the Whitecaps up 2-0, but they almost let Minnesota back into the game early with Takaoka way out of his net, giving the ball away, but Ranko Veselinovic blocking the shot. And thank goodness for that, because it would have been a disastrous goal to give up. But a disaster nearly struck again. I don't know what the call was for. I think it was a handball. It was hard to tell given the angles Apple TV gave us on either Utfik or Veselinovic, but it was a handball. I don't know really what to make of it, but Yohei Takaoka made the big save on Jonathan Rosales. His second penalty save of as a Whitecap. The first was off Diego Rubio at BC Place last year against the Colorado Rapids. And then, like right after the Whitecaps conceded, forgive me for butchering this guy's name. It is really hard to pronounce. Bongakule Hlomane gets a deflection from the far post, pretty much left in no man's land, and Minnesota were back on the board. I get it. Levante Johnson is not a defender, but you can't lose your man like that, especially on a set piece. And speaking of Johnson, again, he has the tools to be an excellent full-time MLS player. He's fun to watch, got some speed, knows how to dribble around his players, but the first touch, the final pass, final touch, decision making is really holding him back. And I didn't think he looked that bad last night or in the game against St. Louis. Hopefully he gets another start in the near future. Actually, I think he will. Oh, Nathan's back.
Hey.
So is that a false alarm?
There we go. Oh, there I am.
There you go.
No, a pipe burst. So it affected all the fire mitigating stuff. The pressure drops down to a certain level, sets off the alarm. So I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. So I was just talking about the game last night and Levante Johnson, because you had an interesting tweet about him.
Yeah. Trying to remember what I said now. Sorry, I'm just trying to get
you said something like he's good at a lot of things, but his first touch. And I was just talking about that.
You know, it's something that we've talked about as well. And the thing is you have to credit Levante Johnson because at least he's getting in the right positions.
That's it. And I didn't think he looked that bad.
No. In fact, you could argue are we still talking about the 4-3 game?
Last night.
Oh, last night. Yeah. He does okay. I actually thought he was better in the St. Louis game than he was last night.
I did too.
He
nearly scored against St. Louis.
Yeah, he did. That's very true. But yeah, you know, it's him being young, and it's the point is, does he push on and starts to improve? Getting in the right spot is great. Being able to do something while you're there kind of is next, right? And in order to do that, you've got to be able to hold the ball a little bit. He's good at creating space for himself. He's strong, but
he's agile. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fact that, you know, when he goes to cushion the ball, it bounces, 5 feet away from him. So that becomes a bit of a difficulty. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. If he pushes on or if his career goes elsewhere. Yeah,
because I was just saying he did a poor job of marking Hlongwane on the Minnesota goal. Again, I think that's
how to say played an excellent game. Very surprised that he had a number of occasions where he could have gotten his brace. Takioka, absolute strength on one of the saves to keep it out. The hand strength of Takioka on a number of occasions, different blocks in order to keep him out. By a mile, best player last night for Minnesota.
Yeah, and thankfully for the Whitecaps, Minnesota were missing so many clear chances, so many headers. I think they had 15 total shots, only 4 were on target.
I was going to say, that's just it. It's not that Minnesota shirked away, right?
Yeah.
It's just that at a certain point, the game got away from them. Before Berhalter's beautiful goal.
Yeah.
You felt like this game was actually going to end up in a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, because Minnesota
felt that Minnesota was coming back into the game a little bit. I think Whitecaps were still playing well. They were defending well, but they were having difficulty moving up at a little bit. And to get that one, just, again, another goal that you're not going to see every night. That's for sure.
Yeah, just a well taken shot. And Ryan Gall got a hat trick of assists. Should also mention first Whitecap to get a hat trick of assists since Swang in Bohm in September of 2019. So it's been almost 5 years.
He had the hat trick of assists. Out of the 4 yellow cards that Minnesota had, he personally drew 2 of them.
Yeah, and you asked him about that last night.
Yeah, because I think it's an underrated part of his game. And I think he's right in the way that he answered. Because of where he's positioned, where he normally plays through the center of the park, he's going to be that guy that ends up, getting a lot of fouls for the other team as people try to get the ball off of him. Because he's tricky, he's able to get by a lot of players. They have to resort to other means to try to get that ball. And, often, it results in a yellow card twice, which happened last night.
Yeah, and Gald even said, you could look at the 3 assists, but I feel like I could have done better at helping the boys out. Like, he stated that his passing wasn't good.
You know what? I will agree with him on that. There was one, I remember we were sitting up there last night watching the game. There was one pass in particular in the second half. You had 2 players. He kind of split the difference in between the 2. I had no idea who he was actually trying to pass to. So there were a number of occasions where that does happen. And it happens to the best players. It even happens to the best players on games where they do really well. They get 3 assists, they draw fouls, they dictate the tempo of the game. So,
and that's what you need
for 90 minutes
from ADP. And back to Berhalter here. It feels like we're starting to see the player we saw last year, because he was back in the midfield and just doing his thing.
Do you know why though? Consistency. This is now 6 games in a row. When you're in and out of the lineup, and usually with Berhalter, you're in and out of the lineup in 3 odd different positions. There's no chance to gain consistency and being comfortable in a particular role. He's had that now, right? And now it takes time to get back to that, I don't know, match fitness, if you want to call it that. And he's there. The unfortunate thing for him, not for the team, is that Andreas Kubas is going to be back likely for the next game. And we'll have to see what that does to someone like Berhalter.
Yeah. And I asked Vanny about him last night, and Vanny said Berhalter wasn't playing the right way, training the right way, and wasn't up to standard of last year early in the season. But when he plays like the way he played last night, either as a 6 or as an 8, he's a player who just runs around a lot and just shows no signs of slowing down.
No. And also, we shouldn't say just runs around a lot, but runs around a lot with intention.
Yeah, and intelligence.
Yes.
He does the right things with the ball, and he's not known for scoring, but when he does, it's usually a banger like the one last night.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, he's had a good shot. And at least one member of the Berhalter family was doing something right over this week.
It's July 4th. We shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later.
We'll do it later, yeah.
Yeah, and credit to the Whitecaps for hanging on last night, because Minnesota just kept on pushing.
Yeah.
And they got lucky. They held the ground as well.
There's 2 other guys I want to call out who I thought had decent games. And you know what? I've been critical of them lately. But when they have a good game, I like to say it, is Pedro Vite and Alessandro Schopf.
Yeah, I thought both of them were good last night.
Because the Whitecaps we've seen a lot of times this year where the Whitecaps are kind of, they're able to move the ball up the flanks. They have difficulty through the middle. They were able to move the ball through the middle this game, finally. Whatever it was, the reasoning, depleted lineup for Minnesota, for everything clicking for the Whitecaps. But Pedro Vite was a big part of that. And he had a few really nice killer passes that went right through the middle.
Yes.
There weren't even long balls. I mean, they were good passes, but they were like close to the ground. Alexander Schopf, playing on the wing, but I mean, his ball winning ability was really good. The Berhalter's goal, it was Alessandro Schopf who received the ball from Laborda on the right, but he played out of danger of being surrounded by 3 guys to get out of that space. The ball to Gald, who eventually set up Berhalter. So 2 guys that, credit where credit's due. They had decent games.
Yeah, and Schuff, ball winning ability, his passes were good and made some good tackles too. And Vitae, again, like you said, great passes down the middle. And also give
He's the
credit
guy
to
that you want to be able to do that. If you're going to be a deep line creator, think of like back in the day of Pedro Morales. That's kind of what you want to see. Now you want to see him carry on with it, right?
Yeah,
if this is going to be his role.
Credit to the back line too of Utvik, Veselinovic, and Laborda.
What a difference
handling
between Veselinovic back in the middle of that three works, right?
Yeah, I spoke earlier about that big block.
Do you remember? Yeah, I was going to say the block when Takioka kind of went into no man's land and was out to lunch. The block to keep that score as it was at the time was from Veselinovic.
Yeah, and Utvik had a quietly but solid good game, and not just the goal for Laborda, but he looked a lot better. To say the least,
he's better as a wide center back.
Never playing in the middle.
He's going to have games like this where everything kind of seems to click. I wish he had more of them because I find that these sort of games are few and far between for Laborda.
Yeah, he's an up and down player. Consistency is the thing.
But we have to say he had a good game.
Yes. And 2 straight wins for the Whitecaps. Big win last night, but puts them into 4th in the Western Conference. But the Western Conference is so tight that only 4 points separates 4th and 10th.
Yeah, I mentioned this last night. That's kind of nuts when you look at it. The other thing that's really nice is even though they're in 4th, you take a look at the teams that are ahead of them in the Western Conference. LAFC obviously leading the pack. Real Salt Lake, LA Galaxy. Actually, all 3 of those teams are tied on 40 points.
Yes.
Whitecaps are 9 points behind them, but they have a game in hand against the Galaxy and RSL. Yes. So, there is a chance to move closer to that top 3 and to create a little bit of distance between those that are behind you or below you in the table.
Yeah, and they're back at it on Saturday. Yeah. And it's in Montreal for an all-Canadian matchup. CF Montreal have not had the best season, and they lost 2-0 in New York to NYCFC last night.
They've only won 1 out of their last 6. Sat on the June 29th against Philly. They've had some difficulty. They're able to pull out draws, but grabbing wins has been a little bit difficult for them.
Yeah, and they're
in fact right now they're sitting in 12th right now.
12th, yeah. New England is above
in the Eastern Conference. So it's been a difficult road for them. Montreal, it's weird. Montreal is known as the city that every 6 months, everyone who rents picks up their stuff and has to move. In fact, the big rent day was just on Canada Day. It's just the way leases work in Montreal is everyone seems to move on these 2 days. But it feels like that's also the squad of Montreal is every year half their squad picks up, moves, and they're having to rebuild from scratch.
Yeah, and the players they brought in usually doesn't make the impact that they want to. Like Joseph Martinez is older, but he's still scoring. Oh yeah, right. Martinez is still scoring goals, but he's older now.
But they are leaky. They are the
very
worst
leaky
team in the East for goals against. They're second worst in the entire league.
I mean, they gave up 10 goals in their last 3 games.
Yeah. I mean, the Whitecaps should go to Montreal with the expectation that they should be able to grab a couple of goals, and then they have to make sure that they're just solidly defensive.
Yeah, because like you said, Montreal is pretty leaky. And from the games I have seen of them, very few this season, they've given up quite a bunch of goals in some pretty chaotic ways. And there are times where they can score goals and times where they just can't figure it out how to.
It's very rare that Montreal only gives up a goal or holds a team to a draw. Usually teams are getting a number of goals against them, and then it's just a matter of what can they do offensively to stop that. The job hasn't been happening this year so far. And in fact, I'm trying to think, like, are they out of the Canadian Championship. Yeah,
They lost to Forge.
Forge, right? So I mean, it's been trouble on multiple fronts for them.
Yeah, and Laurent Courtois came into a tough situation, but situation got tougher for him.
I still think he's a good coach.
Yeah,
I think it's like anything. It's like it, and we'll talk about this later with Bradley Carnell of St. Louis. Actually, we can mention her right now. Bradley Carnell, after the Whitecaps game, St. Louis let their coach go. But again, I don't think it's a coach's fault. I think it's the fact of the pieces that you're giving the coach to work with. They can only do so much.
Yeah, and the players on the pitch. Only the coach isn't on the pitch. Sure, he makes the decisions, but you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And Brian White's hat trick was the last straw for Bradley Carnell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Though St. Louis did win last night under their interim coach.
Interim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think heading back up to fourth place, especially because you're heading into a very, very busy July. You've got midweek games, I think, almost every week this month, including because we've got the first leg of the semifinal in the Canadian Championship that'll be coming up against Pacific, good Ferry side derby. But Whitecaps are going to have to be careful because you got to remember, like when they were dealing with this back in May, where games were coming, frenetic, like just crazy every 3 days, it got to them in the end, right? They were dealing with injuries, they were dealing with play ball, they were having to pull players out of position just to make a starting 11, and you want to make sure that that does not happen again.
Yeah,
right?
And you gotta just, like Vanny 13, he said last night, gotta keep moving because the games are coming fast and furious. So Montreal.
The other thing that you have coming up in the middle of this month is the transfer window, and that is going to be very interesting when it comes to the Whitecaps. I expect the Whitecaps seem to do their best moves in the summer transfer window, but they don't do a lot.
Right. Yeah,
I would say that a lot for the Whitecaps in this window would be if they made two moves, if they brought in two players, maybe one left. I think that would be actually a lot for the Whitecaps.
Yeah,
but they've been very, very tight-lipped as to what that could actually be. We had the rumors of was it Mark Leonard?
Mark Leonard, but that's not happening.
That's not happening. If anywhere, he's heading to I'm thinking one of the LA teams,
LAFC.
Yeah, but
or staying in England.
Yeah, but I mean, there is an opportunity for the Whitecaps, and there is the possibility for the Whitecaps to make space underneath the salary cap if they need to.
Yeah, if they.
So,
like we said last week, it's possible we could see a few departures.
Like I said, the ability to bring in a couple of players, good players, young players, the opportunity is there.
Like, this is the biggest transfer window, I think, of the Axel Schuster era, because you have the opportunity to turn a good team into a great one.
Schuster and Sartini have had the number of years to start to build the team that is in their image, and now that's done. Now they're in the fine-tuning stage. So yeah, I agree with you. Right? This is where you can either, make a good team into a great team, or you can upset the apple cart.
Yes, so we'll see which direction they go. And should also be worth mentioning that you and I don't like all-star games, but Ryan Gauld is the first Vancouver Whitecaps all-star since Alphonso Davies in 2018. He was a coach's choice by Wilfred Nancy.
You know what? Good for him. I like the fact that he was a coach's choice, because that makes it seem to me a lot more legitimate. But all-star games are, first off, they're useless. They don't mean anything other than it's a chance for MLS to make some money. But they're also historically, this is me. It doesn't matter the sport. All-star games are mind-numbingly boring. Yeah. They're boring. Like, I don't understand why, other than the fact that it's a way for the league to make money and not necessarily the teams.
Yeah, to showcase their all-stars, and goes to show that Gauld is finally getting recognition around the league.
Not only that, they're playing a best of Liga MX. They're not going to send their best. They're going to send whoever just happens to be available. They just don't take it seriously.
Yeah, it's different this year. Usually it's a big European team on preseason tour.
So I don't know, like, what is this? Just a precursor to Leagues Cup? Another thing that's kind of useless?
Yeah, pretty much. And there's another thing too. The All-Star game, God will go. Kit looks hideous, by the way, but he also needs some rest. That's also another
The
thing.
kit I'm kind of indifferent on.
It looks hideous.
It's not great, but it's I don't know. Maybe it'll grow.
It's so loud for me.
Yeah, the one thing we should mention is that we're seeing with MLS is the reintroduction of third kits.
Yeah.
I think it's the LA Galaxy has released what theirs looks like. It's a pretty cool kit. Inter Miami
has too, I believe.
Inter Miami, it feels like I gotta say, I really like it. Their third kit looks like a Miami Vice thing out of 1980s. For a team that has absolutely no history, there's a weird city nostalgia to it.
Yeah, it's Miami Dolphins colors.
Yeah, but then even the writing on it has like that kind of very iconic, like a very Miami Vice font that goes with it. I don't know. It screams Miami.
It does.
In a gaudy, good way.
Yeah, and no information has been leaked about the Whitecaps third kit. I assume
if they're going to do it, I don't know. There had been rumors that they were going to bring back the Arbutus kit. I don't know.
I think that was just true. I mean, I'd like them to. But I remember reading something last winter that all MLS teams will get a third kit. I don't know if it's 100% true, but if the Whitecaps are, I would assume it would be a 50th anniversary inspired third kit.
They already have a 50th anniversary inspired kit, right? Their home kit. So
true.
I don't know. They could do it. I mean, it's definitely the opportunity is there. They can do a lot of things. The one thing I thought that was kind of interesting is you take a look at these kits. They're also sporting the old MLS logo.
Yeah. So
like with the boots and the ball kicking. I thought that was kind of an interesting touch. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I actually still have my old Whitecaps kit that it's got the old MLS logo on one, the Canadian patch on the other when they used to do that for the kits. Yeah. I always liked that. So.
Yeah, maybe the Whitecaps will throw it back to the Arbutus game.
Who knows? Or I don't know. If you want to do something that is with the 50th anniversary, go back and do like an old school like Vancouver 86ers.
Yes,
kit or something like that. Like that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Back when they were wearing like, it wasn't like there was like yellow involved in it and something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Also, it's worth mentioning, speaking of like rumors and all that, Fafa Picault, according to Tom Bogert, reportedly wants to head back east and could be on his way out soon.
Interesting article. Har of the Daily Hive actually had a sit down with both Fafa and Axel Schuster about this. Rumors are not being denied. In fact, It looks like they're being confirmed without being explicitly confirmed, but they're also saying it didn't come from them. Like the fact that this is out there, they don't know where it came from, but it's not there. And basically it's the fact, you know what? It's out there. They've both aired their respective sides, but they've also agreed that, nothing's happening right now. So we're going to get down and do our job, right? And Fafa, to his credit, has done that. Came on in the last couple of games and had a goal, right?
Vanny was even asked this after the St. Louis game that Fafa Picault was a Vancouver Whitecap.
When it comes to Fafa, I don't know what is going to happen. Again, you might have a team from the East that during the transfer window all of a sudden does find interest in him. The thing is you're talking about a player that, I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of time left. He only signed a 1-year deal with the Whitecaps, but he makes over 600 or 650,000. So it's going to be a bit of a hit for a guy who's 33 years old.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if you're going to find a team that's willing to bite. We'll have to wait and see.
If you
But
do,
again, there's another player that if the Whitecaps are able to find a deal out, that is a lot of space to bring someone in. Especially the fact that there has been a lot of talk about that U22 spot.
it'd be good to use that cap space. Find someone, I don't know, maybe like Fafa Pico, but younger, obviously. Got to find an upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. We should talk about we got Wrexham coming up later on this month. Wrexham, as part of their West Coast tour, will be in Vancouver playing the Whitecaps. They will not be bringing Super Paul Mullen.
Yeah, as he is undergoing surgery.
He actually, the player himself just tweeted earlier today. He has undergone surgery. He said he put it off as long as possible. Unfortunately, it had to be done. But he is now in recovery and everything is looking well. Now it's just a matter of resting because, he's got his own season to get used to. So, look, sometimes players don't make trips.
Yeah. What, is there going to be a petition?
We've been through this before, Vancouver. Sometimes players don't make trips.
Yeah.
That's sports.
And it's nothing that...
It's no reason for a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, no reason either, are there?
Yeah.
Or to demand a refund.
This is one of those things that it boggles your mind that it needs to be said, but apparently it needs to be said.
Yeah, buyer beware once again. So that's the Whitecaps. And
we talked a little bit about Montreal. What about the other Canadian team? How's that?
Yeah, Toronto, like 5 straight losses. And
I believe only one win in their last 10 or 11.
Yeah, they lost.
You know what I saw? Home. Out of a possible 33 points, they've picked up 5.
Yeah.
So
and
that tells
2-1 loss last night to Orlando.
And I get it. You know what? Another team that has had difficulty with injuries, but at this point of the season, that's every team. On top of that, you've got international call-ups because players are offered either Euros or Copa America. So at a certain point, those excuses don't fly anymore. Now, Toronto is still in that play-in playoff spot. They're in 8th place. So, it's easy enough for them to turn their season around. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they do it. What they need is someone like, their DPs trying to stop doing the cute things and just play the game.
Yeah, and stop trying to, showboat and all that.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to have their own other players, like good squad players, starting to call out their own DPs saying, look, we need to win a game. We don't need this to be, the Bernardeschi or the Insignia show.
Yeah. So. And the way they lost against Atlanta over the weekend. Like...
Okay, what are your thoughts on that goal?
First of all, it's funny as hell, but how's that even allowed? Because he left the field of play.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you've seen it before where a player has kind of ghosted in behind the goalkeeper, waiting for the goalkeeper to take a kick. As soon as they drop the ball, they go in and take the ball. You're allowed to do that if you were on the field of play.
He wasn't.
He wasn't. He left the field of play, which you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, Jamal.
You're only allowed to do that if you have explicit or implicit permission from the ref. So the ball goes out for a free throw. You've got implicit permission because you need to in order to start the game. Things like that. If you go off the field, and he went off on his own volition. It's not like the ball went out. So yeah, you're right. It's funny as hell, but I don't think the goal should have stood.
Yeah. I don't think it should have either, but it did.
I think it's one of those ones that it's so audacious that everyone kind of just lost their heads for a moment and forgot to actually think like, hey, can we actually do this?
Like, are you allowed to leave the field of play and sneak behind the goalkeeper and score?
Yeah, right? Because if that's the case, you're going to see everyone not only hiding behind the goalpost, they're going to be hiding behind the mesh of the net, waiting for the goalkeeper, right?
Or hiding in the tunnel.
The thing is if the goalkeeper misses that, where's the center back saying, look behind you?
Yeah.
It looked wait,
like Toronto was really high up the pitch.
I know. I mean, I get it. He was getting ready to boot the ball, halfway down. But if that just isn't a symbol of Toronto's season.
Yeah, that pretty much sums up Toronto sports.
Yep.
And yeah, so we'll move on to Copa America. Canada have qualified for the quarterfinals. Venezuela will be their opponent. They play in Dallas. No, not Dallas, Arlington on Friday, which is tomorrow. And they've only scored one goal in the group stage, but it's a 0-0 draw against Chile. We were watching it in the press box. They were up by a man for since the 27th minute. Unfortunately, couldn't score and couldn't create much either.
You know what? I said at the very, very beginning that there is a road to qualification with 4 points. That's what they got. Yeah. They got 4 points. They needed a win. They needed a draw. And then they needed to hope that Argentina did what they did.
And they did.
You know what? I'm very happy with what's been going on with this squad in terms of building an identity, playing the way they have. But now they need to step up and figure out, okay, we've got the bones. Now we need to build on that, and they need to start building an offense. They haven't been able to do that yet. I gotta say, I'm at the point where I want to see Oluwasi or even Theo Bair not only get some minutes, but even a start, maybe alongside Jonathan David. David and Laren together. And don't get me wrong, I think Laren actually did a good job in the 0-0 game in pulling players away and making space for David. But that's difficult to do when David is playing so deep.
Yeah, and then he has carried the ball up, and it just didn't work once again.
It's still not clicking there fully offensively. It'll get there. It's young. I think Jesse Marsh has done pretty amazing to come in and play the opposition he has, where he's played every single team he has played has been above them in the FIFA rankings. Now, FIFA rankings, you can make whatever you want with them. They sometimes it just seems like it's a dart on the board to see who ranks what. Venezuela is going to be interesting because Venezuela is the first team that Canada is going to be playing under the Jesse Marsh era that is ranked below them.
But Venezuela
is ranked 54th. Canada is 48th. So in this quarterfinal, you have an expectation that Canada should, on paper, qualify. Now, we also need to mention there's been some bad news coming out of the men's camp. Tejan Buchanan was involved in a player collision at training, was taken to a hospital in Dallas where it was he ended up undergoing surgery for a broken tibia, I believe.
Yeah, that's
he's not only out for the tournament, he's out for half a year. Right? That's 4 to 6 months, not only to heal, but to get your body back up to the point where you are match fit. So don't expect him playing even for
Inter Milan
until Christmas, after Christmas.
That's what it's looking like.
I have to say, Buchanan, wish you all the best. Good luck in your recovery. Yeah. And I hope by all reports, surgery was successful. So yeah. And now that's your job now. Get healthy.
It's really sad because he was slowly starting back to the form we want to see from him.
Yeah.
Especially against Chile. He nearly scored the winner.
Coming off the bench, I thought was good for him because that's what it needed. The thing is now that he is missing, who fills that hole? I've seen a lot of people say Richie Larea. I know a lot of people were happy with Larea for the yellow cards that he drew.
And all the antics he drew, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Larea is known, what people call the dark arts of football, right?
Yeah, he's a master of the dark arts.
Personally, I hate to see it, but I know it works. So I'm of two minds when it comes to that.
Yeah, and also give more minutes for someone like Jacob Schaffelberg, who has looked decent. And also credit to Jesse Marsh for, in this tournament, just adapting to the game and making sure his team stays in the games.
Yeah.
And so far, he's done a decent job, but again, where are the goals coming from? There's one goal
That's
in
it.
3 games.
Interesting match against Chile because they were without their head coach. Third head coach of this tournament that has been suspended for bringing their teams out late at a half, which, I mean, you got to be them, Uruguay, Argentina, what happened. But they were also without their captain and starting goalkeeper in Claudio Bravo. So, I mean, it was going to be difficult for Chile to come into this because that's 2 key changes that you now have to adapt to and not a lot of time to adapt. Yeah, but Canada qualifies. Canada is only one of 2 CONCACAF countries that qualified out of this tournament. The other one being Panama, which
of all teams.
Interesting story in their group.
Yeah, and more on that later. But just the game against Chile, the passes like into the box weren't great. The crosses weren't finding anyone. Credit to like the likes of Larrea, Alphonso Davies for trying to make it happen, but again, no one was accepting the gifts.
And we should mention Alphonso Davies, who was named to the Copa America team of the week for round 3 as left back. So
I thought he looked good against Chile.
Yeah. You know what? Under Marsh, the way his fullbacks play, getting high up the pitch, he is still able to be a creative menace. And I got to be kind of happy that Marsh held off his detractors. He stuck to what his plan was in keeping Davies as a left back.
To his credit, it's working.
That's not to say that you might see late game changes where if you need a spark, where changes happen, right? You move him up. I think the other thing that really forces Marsh's hand is the fact that he was not able to call up Sam Adekugbe. Adekugbe still dealing with injury. He's not even playing for the Whitecaps right now. He's only in light training. That's been something that's really been hindering him. Like we expected him back a while back. It hasn't happened. But if Canada would have had Adekugbe available, that could have changed things.
Yeah, and I think Davies had his best game of Copa America.
He did, and it was recognized as such.
Yeah, and it's encouraging, like, to see Canada like progress, because we see like there's progression under Jesse Marsh, but Marsh has said, "Yeah, it's cool, we're out of the group, but we're not satisfied."
I think that's the general sentiment in the camp. There's a good feeling in the camp, but it's like, you know what? We need to do better for ourselves, and we have the ability to do so. So now it's okay. We're happy where we are, but we're not settled. It's time to push on.
Yeah. And good on Marsh for raising the standard around this Canadian team. And we'll see what they can do against Venezuela, because they're a team that can score goals.
It does seem like with Marsh that, the parent entered the room, right?
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit like that. Where as much as I liked John Herdeman, credits to what he was able to do with this Canadian program, but there was a lot of you want to be a part of the guys. You want to be the friend, where sometimes you just need the coach to come in, be the parent, and also be the one that's in the firing line. Like if you got to talk to media, he's the guy to do it. And he's I think it's a very different model, and it feels like an evolution overall for the Canadian program.
Yeah.
Right? Both of those managers were good for the era of the program that they were in charge of. So yeah, I'm reasonably happy.
Yeah, I'm reasonably happy with the way Marsh has handled his
if Canada gets beyond Venezuela and gets into a semifinal, that's success. That is success. And now it's like, what can you do with 90 minutes, potentially 180? Can you be the upset? And at that point, I'm just like, just go play. Just go have fun.
But Venezuela's not going to be easy.
Fun now. You've already exceeded my expectation. You've met them right now. You have a very easy chance to succeed them. So go have fun.
Yeah, 6 goals in 3 games in the group of Venezuela.
Yeah.
So expect them to come out firing. And Canada has, for the most part, defended well in this tournament.
Yeah.
There were
have
chaotic
better
moments,
place,
but
even playing against Argentina. Like that was a tough game, but they didn't get blown out of the water. So
yeah. So Venezuela, 6 p.m. our time Pacific tomorrow. We'll be out with friends. I'll see if I can find a TV at the place we're
yeah,
going to.
I will
And
be watching the game. I will be following along. We'll have something on Area 51 about the game as well. So don't worry, we got you covered.
yeah, so the U.S. and Mexico are out
Yeah.
of Copa America. Let's talk about the U.S. here because that game against Uruguay was wild and goes to show that Copa America is. It feels like you're watching a knife fight.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I gotta say, I think referees have the hardest job in sport. It doesn't matter what sport it is. I think referees have the hardest job because you never come out looking good. If you do a great job, it's usually never mentioned. If you do a horrible job, everyone comes after you from both sides. I think this was one of the worst refereeing jobs I have ever seen. Here's this. I think it is the worst one that I have ever seen. I don't think it's the worst one that's ever happened. I mean, we can talk about that CAF match from the last CAF where, the referee actually stopped the game before the game was even over, then had to bring everyone back on and play more. That one was just, I don't even know what happened with that one. But this, I understand if you are an American and aggrieved over what happened in this game.
Yeah. And Canadian Schadenfreude aside.
Yeah.
He was thinking, I'm going to let Uruguay keep playing. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Who allows play to carry on when you're in the middle of giving a yellow card?
On VAR.
Yeah. See, and this is the thing with the goal or that one. The VAR says, yeah, it's a good goal. Well, later on they come in and they show the line drawn and they show it to us.
Yes.
Well, the line drawn showed his knee offside. Like it literally had the red on the player's knee. 10 minutes later, they come back with a brand new line drawn.
They're just making it up as they go.
Now, I get it. Copa is not using the same technology that Euros are using. Euros are using the semi-automated offside. It is a much better system. It is a much more precise system. We're not that. We're not there yet. It is not in Copa. But if you're going to show an audience, hey, we got the call right, and then show something that explicitly shows you got it wrong, who okayed the release of that graphic?
Yeah, and it goes to show you're not even hiding anymore. By the way, that referee
he has been found for match fixing before.
Yeah, in Argentina.
There's
not even hiding.
Yeah, like at that point. Now, there's also the other thing that's going around, the clip of Pulisic going to shake the referee's hands and the referee is refusing to do it. Have you seen the full clip?
Yeah, he was pretty much telling them, why don't you go celebrate with Uruguay?
Exactly. So, I mean, I got to be honest. I understand why the ref didn't want to shake Pulisic's hand, but
I understand why
at the end,
kicked off.
At the end, like that was bad. Now, the thing is you are now the United States. You've bowed out at the quarterfinals. A quarterfinals that you were expected to go in. Uruguay, Panama, Bolivia. That's a group the United States should be qualifying from. The fact that they got beat by Panama, like it should have never come down to this USA Uruguay game. USA should have been able to qualify first or second, no problem.
They should have beat Panama, red card aside.
So, what happens with Greg Berhalter?
Personally, I think he should have been fired after the Uruguay game, but it's the U.S. Federation. It seems they're so stubborn, just like him.
And that's just it. Is like I don't feel like he should have been fired. I think Berhalter should have stepped down.
Oh, that would have been even better.
I think he should have made. He should have gotten in front of that story before it ever happened. Yes, the story was always going to be Berhalter. Again, I don't feel like this is on Berhalter. I think it's in this tournament. I think the fact that you had players that didn't show up, especially when these are the players who fought for you to keep your job when all the stuff going on between him and Gio Reyna and all that stuff was happening. But I don't think you've done yourself any service. I think it's time to move on. I don't know who you get, because the thing is there's the whole American exceptionalism argument of we demand the best. So you're seeing a lot of talk of Klopp's free. Let's go get Jurgen Klopp.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to happen.
That's not happening. Sorry, Tim Howard. That's not happening.
So my question is who do you go out and get? And I don't know what that answer is.
Well, they're not going to get.
You had an opportunity to get a guy. Well, I'm sorry, he's got a job north of the border now.
Yeah, and he pretty much so far. So
yeah,
So,
and then we can also talk about Mexico. Mexico in a group with Venezuela, Ecuador, Jamaica. They understand playing Jamaica. They're in the same confederation. This is a group that you would have expected Mexico to qualify from. Unfortunately, they do not qualify, only on goal difference with Ecuador. But two of what are considered the giants of CONCACAF are out of this America's tournament.
Yeah, and actually, the United States, back to them for a minute, the color commentator on the Fox feed pretty much said, this is if you haven't achieved anything.
I'm sorry?
It's not a goal if you haven't achieved anything.
No.
On the U.S.
Yeah. The U.S.
I forgot the guy's name, but
yeah.
He put it well.
They haven't achieved anything. Yeah. The thing is you're also looking at 2 of the 3 countries that in 2 years are going to be hosting the World Cup. This was supposed to be the precursor to that. The host nation didn't make it out of the group stage. That
2
is
of the host nations.
2 of the host nations, but the host nation of Copa America.
Yeah.
Right? Where all these games are being played in the United States. So that's a big indictment against them.
It's also with Mexico too. Like we've talked honestly about they're not the team we once knew.
Mexico hasn't been the team that we once knew for a number of years. Mexico is going through a big transformation. The old guard is gone. But you also have wrapped up in it is all the stuff that goes on with Mexico and the fans and the chants. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that stuff happening in Copa America as well, with a lot of the racist comments that are going on social media. I mean, how many times do you have to warn federations?
Yeah, and Canada was no exception to that.
No, it's happened against almost every team that has players that are, of a different ethnicity. So
yes,
I don't know. I don't know. It shouldn't be a part of it. I hate that it is.
Yeah, and also the U.S., they didn't help themselves. Like they weren't clinical at all against Uruguay. Like certain players,
the U.S. didn't play in a way to endear themselves to advancing, but they definitely had 12 men against them on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, Pulisic was doing everything he could, but like the supporting cast, Reyna, Pepe, Balogun, missing.
Yeah. Wade suspended as well.
Yeah, Wade too, like very underwhelming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the second game he was out in the 18th minute with which I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah, I don't know what he was
thinking.
That.
Yeah.
But
anyway, Canada, Venezuela. So
yeah,
Copa America, quarterfinal start tomorrow.
Yeah, some good matchups. Let me just bring them up here. I know we've got Argentina, Ecuador tomorrow, which is Caicedo against Enzo Fernandez for the little Chelsea connection. And weird to me seeing Caicedo take set pieces, but he has done well with Ecuador.
Very true.
It's also weird to see Brazil not, being the team we expect, and Colombia, to their credit, went toe to toe with them. And I don't know what it is, but James Rodriguez, every time he puts on a Colombia kit, he looks world class.
Yeah.
And Colombia should get by Panama.
I would believe so. Absolutely. I think here, let me just pull up group stages right now.
Yeah, we also got Uruguay, Brazil.
Knockout, yeah. So Argentina, Ecuador, Argentina, Venezuela, Canada. I'm gonna go Canada. They've got to figure it out, but this is a good chance. Colombia, Panama,
I'll say Venezuela. Colombia.
Uruguay, Brazil is going to be the match of the quarterfinals.
I'm gonna go with Uruguay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely fair. I'm going to go Brazil because it's Brazil. I think history is probably going to play a little bit of bias on my decision, but I'm going to go Brazil.
I'm just going to go with recent form because Uruguay have been on fire.
And they've done really well under Biello.
Yeah. And I expect a Darwizi goal.
Not Bielsa.
Yeah. Names are very similar.
Yeah.
So that's Copa America. Canada will be playing Venezuela once again on Friday, and hopefully they can score some goals.
Hopefully.
And we also got some news regarding the Canadian women, too.
Yeah, their roster is out for the Paris Olympics that are coming up very soon. It's an interesting roster because you're only allowed an 18-person roster plus 4 alternates for injuries. But so we knew that there was going to be surprises because it's a smaller roster than normally what national teams get for international tournaments. But this one does definitely have some surprises.
Yeah, no Olivia Smith has been a surprise.
Yeah, that is definitely one. There's also the fact that, and I'm trying to remember the name, but there's a player that's been picked that hasn't played a full match since like February because they had a broken leg.
Yeah, I'm just trying it up here. It's a bit slow. Let me just take a look here.
Yeah, Prince.
Yeah,
Prince. Right. Since then, she's played 4 games. She's never played a full game out of any of that, but she has been picked. That is a big one. Gabrielle Carl, not picked.
Yeah, that's
who's had a very good 2024. I think she's been picked as one of the injury replacements, but not on the full squad. Things like that. But I will say, look, you can be surprised, you can be disappointed, you can be upset. The thing that bugs me with this, I've seen it now from, I believe, two players that were not picked or players that made the injury squad. I'm not going to name names because it's already out there. You can go and find it. But the penning of open letters expressing your disappointment with the decision. I don't think that is something players should do.
Yeah, I get why they do it, though.
Air grievances in the public. And I think that hurts the national side before they've even stepped onto the pitch because you're creating dissent.
Yeah. It goes to show that you got a little attitude.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
I mean, if you're not picked,
be even angry, take it up with the coach. I think you're fully within your right to ask, hey, why didn't I make it? But to start airing that in public, I got a problem with that. So all I'm going to say, that being said, Canada is going to go and defend their gold medal from the previous Olympics, which Tokyo. So here we go. This time you get to defend it with people in the stands. So hopefully that works out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Canada's roster. Some interesting omissions and selections, but hopefully Canada will pull through because they have a tough group, which includes the host France.
What about that other tournament going on?
So quickly here, the Euros quarterfinals start, I believe,
tomorrow, I believe, with
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let me
tomorrow with Spain, Germany, and Portugal, France. which are like
Yeah, and a
absolute
lot of stuff
giants.
happened.
You're talking about some of the big giants playing tomorrow. And then Saturday, you've got Netherlands playing Turkey and England playing Switzerland.
Yeah, so Spain have...
So Portugal, let's talk about them first, because that was a difficult match to advance. Cristiano Ronaldo missing a penalty, redeeming himself as it goes to penalty kicks, but there has been a lot of talk.
Shootout.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk, including from Portuguese reporters, on whether or not Ronaldo should have been in these Euros all along. So here's what I think. I don't think you tell Cristiano Ronaldo no. I think that's a very difficult thing to do. I think you would have a bit of a riot on your hands if he wasn't. But I think he needs to start making that decision for himself. I think that this is his last Euros completely. I don't think he plays again. But I think he needs to understand that his role has changed. And I don't know if he's done that yet.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
I mean, again, he still wants to be the guy, but the free kicks just look terrible.
I think he still thinks he is the guy because of how well he did in the Saudi Pro League, not realizing that the Saudi Pro League is not the Euros.
No, not at all. And Diogo Costa, 3 big saves in the penalty shootout, big one in extra time off Benjamin Sesko, Portugal's hero. And if you don't know his name, you do know him now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
there's been a number of names that we've
big
now
European
learned.
club
Yamal of Spain.
Him off from Porto, but he's a 60 million euro release clause.
Yeah. I think there's a number of names that have really opened themselves up in these Euros. I was going to say Yamal from Spain. There's also that young phenom out of Turkey who's done really
Nico Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Arda Güler.
Yeah. Nico Williams.
Netherlands,
we'll talk about him later as well. But we've also had some teams that have not performed that have still made through, including the team that I thought was going to go and win it all, like France.
Like 1 goal was a penalty, 2 were own goals, yet they still pulled through.
Yeah. You've got a team that's made it to this round, and they haven't actually scored a goal from open play.
Which is wild, and considering that they're favorites too.
They were my favorites. I don't know if they are anymore. I'm casting eyes towards Spain with how they've done.
Yeah, I'm only giving up 1
Turkey.
goal.
I got to say, I've been very, very impressed with Turkey.
Yes, that last-minute save though against Austria was
beautiful.
And then there's England too.
Well,
total wank for most of the game.
We knew that England was going to come in this and make things look boring. But the fact is England falls forward, right?
Yeah, and they did. Jude Bellingham with a bicycle kick.
I mean, the thing is love or hate Gareth Southgate, but he continually does this. He continually falls forward. He gets teams out of group stages. He gets teams into the latter stages of tournaments.
And doesn't work when it matters most, but we'll see.
But the thing is that hasn't happened for England in a long time. So he is England's best manager in 60 years.
Yeah, and Switzerland, credit to them against Italy, but Italy just looks so bad.
Yeah.
They could
Italy winning the last Euros feels like a blip now.
Yeah, it feels like forever ago, honestly, because most of the team isn't even here.
All right, let's go through the quarterfinal. Who do you think is going to win? And we'll start with kind of what might be one of the more difficult ones is England, Switzerland.
I'll go with England, though you can't count the Swiss out.
I'm going with Switzerland. I think England has gone as far as they're going to go.
Yeah, I think England will win a scrappy 1-0 or 2-1 game.
And is going to bank off some of that. Yeah, you know what? It absolutely can happen. Okay, Netherlands and Turkey.
This is tough because I really like the way Turkey are playing.
I really like the way Turkey are playing, but Netherlands has done really well. Like they were commanding in that game against Romania.
I'll go with the upset. I'll go with Turkey.
Turkey is my dark horse. You know what? I'm going to go with you. Against what I believe is going to happen, this is the one I'm going to choose with my heart. Spain, Germany.
Tough, but I'll go with Spain, given how efficient they've been.
But so is Germany.
And Germany has been too. I think this
Germany,
one will be like
it's that game. German clockwork. It's that German engine, right? And I'm going to go with Germany because I think the game changer is going to be Musala.
Yeah, I'll go with Spain.
Okay, fair enough.
Young talent.
Portugal, France.
Portugal, France. Rematch of Euro 2016 final.
There you go.
France have not been in good form, but I'll just go with them.
I'm going to go with France too because I don't think Portugal has wowed anyone either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this will be close too.
So we agree on 2.
Yeah, and these are all good matchups, and these should be fun games, except for the England one.
Well, yeah.
And maybe France.
Portugal, France should be a good game. It feels like it should. But the history of this tournament is telling us maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. So catch all the Euro action starting tomorrow. All right. Move over to Europe.
Let's go.
Not too much for Chelsea, but I should talk about this. So midfielder Kieran Dewsbury Hall has signed from Leicester City for £30 million. Brighton wanted to sign him in a swap deal, but Chelsea hijacked the deal. So this guy is a box-to-box midfielder. It's kind of like Conor Gallagher. He runs around, he tackles. But he has one thing Conor Gallagher doesn't have. Creativity. And he is very creative because if you look at the underlying numbers, he has led the championship in like progressive passes, crosses, and all that. He's been like first, second, or third in all these attacking statistics. And he's reunited with Enzo Maresca, Ben Chilwell, Wesley Fofana. Could see Dewsbury Hall fit in with Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. The more I look into it, the more I think this is a good signing. I'm warming up to it because I knew nothing about him. But he brings skill sets that this team needs. But could this be the end for Carney Chukwuemeka? Been revealed that he's a £40 million release clause, and with Dewsbury Hall in, is there room for him?
Yeah.
And it hasn't been reported that Chelsea will sell him, but who knows at this rate? And of course, Chelsea have to be compliant with FFP. So I like the signing, and he said he models his game after both Frank Lampard and N'Golo Kante. And he grew up watching both of them. And this guy is not just some kid. He's 25 years old. So he's a proven player and has played in the Premier League. Despite Leicester getting relegated, he was still one of their better players. And was arguably their best player last season. Not much in terms of incomings, other than silly rumors that probably will never happen. But this one, I kind of had hope. But it looks like Arsenal are ahead of the race for Riccardo Calafiori. Yeah, that guy, the Italian defender with the aura, who made a name for himself the Euros.
I should throw Tottenham into that race as well. They've been very big on him as well. At one point, they seem to be in pole position, but Arsenal seems to be the one team that is actually talking to his camp right now. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, unless something happens, I think he is going to Arsenal.
Feels that way right now, which kind of sucks.
And yeah, still a lot of room for growth in him. Sure, he brings the aura, but he's just a quiet and calm defender. Would be nice for Chelsea, but I don't think it's happening at this point. And there are rumors that Ben Chilwell could be on his way out. I pretty much said that Cucurella should be the main left back going forward because he fits Maresca more.
Chilwell's never been the same since his injury, though, right?
Yeah, his ACL injury.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been the same and barely plays nowadays, but when he does, he's not great.
Yeah,
but Fabrizio Romano has kind of pumped the brakes saying, yeah, it's possible, but nothing's imminent. And the rumor was that top Premier League clubs could bid for him. How much? Don't know. So we'll see what happens with him. This is worth talking about because this is actually quite big. So Neil Bath and Jim Fraser have left Chelsea after like 2 decades, at least. Now, who are these guys? These guys pretty much run Cobham, Chelsea's academy, and made it what it is today. Like Reece James, Mason Mount, Andreas Christensen, Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, Levi Colwell. All those names came to Chelsea's academy. So many others have as well. Many have progressed elsewhere, but these two are pretty much the reason why Cobham is one of the best academies in world football. But now they're gone. No fire.
Well, I'll let you continue on. I've got another fire. It's one of those days.
Yeah, one of those days. I'll be brief. Yeah. So
I think we're good.
Oh, you're good. Oh yeah.
Yep.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. So these two, I mean, it goes to show that the Chelsea of old is dead, and given the fact that this ownership group is buying and selling academy players instead of actually letting them develop for long periods of time. I don't know, maybe that played a factor into the decision. They haven't really said anything. Nothing has been said, but it's a different Chelsea. And I guess they left because maybe they no longer recognize the club. So we'll see what happens to Cobham.
They haven't signed with anyone else yet?
No, they just left like 2 days ago.
That is what is damning to me, is when guys of that magnitude that are exactly involved, but they don't immediately have somewhere else to go, that they've just left, right? It's not like they're leaving to go to another job. That is, there's
just
something
find other jobs elsewhere. So, yeah, it's actually been just officially announced, and people are not happy. So, best to Neil Bath and Jim Fraser. Thanks for making Cobham for what it is today. And we'll see if they can carry on without them.
Fair enough.
And it's also Sam Jewell, the director of recruitment they got from Brighton. I think he will be running the academy for Chelsea. And last thing here, the training kit for Chelsea has been released. Oh, yeah, it's Joe Shields and Sam Jewell. So I guess Joe Shields, given his track record so far, maybe it's in good hands. But the training kit for Chelsea has been released. And of course, it looks way better than the home kit. Like, way better. It's like a light blue, almost like the Tottenham away kit in a way.
Okay.
And has a new sponsor. It's not Trivago. It's Bing X, a crypto trading app or company or whatever.
I guess that's the way we're going instead of betting sites now.
Yeah. I mean, it has a nice color. It's a nice touch to it. Got Infinite Athlete as a side sponsor. It's unknown whether they'll be the main kit sponsor. But the women's team also will be wearing the same kit, but they have a different sponsor. They have 3, which is that UK Ireland phone company that sponsored Chelsea's kits from 2020 to 2023. And it looks better with the 3. And I've seen looking at a picture right now of Ashley Lawrence in it. And yeah, it just looks pretty nice. Even better with 3. So the women have their own sponsorship. And it looks like this could be the start of something for women's football when it comes.
I mean, the Chelsea women have been dominant for a long, long time. But if they can push and do something like this, kind of make their own identity within the club.
What they're doing.
Yeah, it's a good way of doing it.
So that's Chelsea, and it looks like Tottenham has finally made a signing.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird because this feels like the first signing, but it's kind of like Tottenham's third, and I'll get to that. They have stepped up. They have signed Archie Gray from Leeds. He was the Championship's Young Player of the Year last year. He's considered one of, if not the biggest up and coming, if not the best young English prospect in the country right now. They had to pay for him £40 million transfer fee. It's the 4th highest ever transfer fee in football for an 18-year-old. Part of the deal, it's kind of part of the deal, but it's a separate one, is that Joe Rondon is going in the other direction. Will be playing for Leeds, and that was a £10 million deal. That's a tough one. I've always liked Rondon. He never really got a good shake at Tottenham, but whenever he went on loan, he did well. So hopefully all the best to Rondon. But Archie Gray, midfielder, can also play right back, but his true creative self is as a midfielder, does really well. I think he's going to fit really well into Tottenham's system. He is one for now. He's not a guy for the future. He is expected to play now. He's already been given the number 14 shirt. It's a 6-year contract. And you got to take a look at this midfield now, and this is why I say it feels like 3 signings, because you got Pape Madassar, you've got Archie Gray, but you have another new guy coming in, and that's Lucas Bergvall, who they signed last year, but then loaned back to his club in Sweden. This guy was nominated for a Euro Young Boy Award, or a Golden Boy Award. And he's now going to be one of the starters with Tottenham as well. They've got a starting core midfield of 18 years old, and 21 or 22 years old. These guys
built for the future then.
But they're also built for now. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's why it feels so good for them right now. The other guy that also feels like that's not really a new signing, but technically is that we forget that they signed Timo Werner and extended his loan for another year. So
yeah,
Tottenham has been quietly busy, even though it doesn't feel like that. Other than that, again, it's the rumor mill. Pedro Neto, one of the guys they've got on the rush.
I feel like they've been linked to him for a while. I don't know why.
They've been linked to him for a long time. The biggest thing that stops them is injuries. Neto's got a history with injuries, and that's where the worry is. But Tottenham wants a winger. He's one of the wingers that they are looking at. They're also looking at another guy that they could play either higher up or down low, especially because we should mention Emerson Royale looks like it's very, very close to a done deal of him going to AC Milan. Already agreed player terms. The players talked with his agent to get it over the line. 25 million euro fee. If they can get this done, I think it's great. It's just a matter of getting done. Coming in the other way is with big possibility is Nico Williams. We talked about him. He's got a 42 million pound release clause. Tottenham has oodles of money underneath FFP. So they could get it done. It's just a matter of whether or not they will. The one
Chelsea would like him too.
Yeah, so it's just a matter. Again, we talked about Calafiori as a top priority. They're also looking at for another winger is Yusuf Fofana from AS Monaco.
Oh, so Fofana.
The one guy that is starting to pick up steam, and apparently they've started discussions with his camp today, was Desiree Doué, one of the biggest hot prospects in European football, another 18-year-old playing in France. Apparently, they've already had discussions with his agent about personal terms. It seems like they've opened up discussions with his club, and I'm trying to remember now. He's in France. I'm trying to remember who his actual club is.
I'm trying to look at here. Is he in Ligue 1 or Ligue 2?
Ligue 1. He is currently with Rennes.
Or Rennes, yeah.
Yeah, so that is one that seems to be moving in the right direction. As far as players out, Sergio Reguilon, forget that he's still a Tottenham player.
Me too.
He has spent time on loan. Most recently, he was with Man United, and then I think it was someone else. West Ham is interested in him. So again, I think the writing is on the wall that he is going to be going somewhere. If not permanent, they're definitely going to work out a loan for him to leave.
He just hasn't worked out there.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked out, which is too bad, because when he first came in for his first half a season, I really liked him. And it was a position that was really, really difficult to try and fill. But Destiny Udogie is that guy. He's going to take that. He's going to run with it. He's just going to get better and better and better. Jed Spence, who spent last season on loan, last half of the season with Genoa. Genoa want him, but they don't want to pay the 10 million pound release clause. They're only willing to go up to 7. It's only 3 million apart. And today in football money, that's
peanuts. Football, 10 million is peanuts.
Yeah, but it looks like a no deal is agreed. So Tottenham is now looking to shop him around to generate a little bit more interest to see if they can get someone that's willing to pay the 10 millions. So if they can find it, we'll have to wait and see. Interesting rumors coming out. We know that Tottenham needs at least one more player to meet European qualification standards because they're going to be in Europa League. They need another homegrown player. They've got 3. You need 4. So they have been looking at Marcus Edwards in Portugal, who is a homegrown player for Spurs. They could get him on a cut rate deal because they also have a buyback clause on him, which kind of weird that if you bring him back and you use the buyback clause, he's not going to be as expensive as it is than it would be for any other team. Marcus Edwards wants to go to Spurs. We know Crystal Palace is another team that's kicking the tires on him. He's already said he doesn't want to go there. He's trying to make the Spurs deal work. It's just a matter if he really is a player Spurs need. Now, the one thing Spurs need is a right back. If Nico Williams doesn't work, there is also Kyle Walker-Peters. He is a name that has been talked about. There are other teams looking at Walker-Peters. I don't know if Spurs really – I think they should be looking at Nico Williams. I think if you're going to go big, go big. He's got a release clause of $42 million. Go for it. The other thing that is interesting that's come up in the last little while is with a player who is from the Spurs Academy is Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore is another big prospect for England who is expected to do big things. We know Dortmund has been looking at him, but apparently earlier today, both Man City and Man United have submitted offers for Mikey Moore, which Tottenham said this kid's not for sale. And in fact, they have said that he is going to be a part of the first team, at least for the preseason, to see if he can be the winger that Spurs need and move him up, which would be another 18-year-old moving up. Like I think Tottenham is going to be the youngest squad in the Premier League this year.
And it's not Chelsea.
And the thing is if Mikey Moore is the guy they bring up, that solves their Europe problems because he's homegrown.
Right, and he's right there too.
So it could be really, really interesting to see what happens with that. Other than that, when it comes to Spurs, I think that is it. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the thing is if you give Spurs 3 years, Bergvall will be homegrown because he's 18. He'll get under the 3 years where he'll end up being homegrown before his 21st, which counts for Europe. You also have the possibility that if they end up getting Desiree Doué under the line, he could be. Archie Gray is 18. That could be it. So while they're setting up for now, they're also setting themselves up to potentially be a European powerhouse. And I like it. The one thing that's really, really shifted for Tottenham is the fact that they've really, really gone heavy in their analytics department. So
that's what I've been hearing too.
Yeah, this could be a good thing. Again, while it is a science, it's not a 100% science. So, these players, they've got a lot of upside for the future. It's going to be a matter of whether or not they can get it going. We know Tottenham has one of the best stadiums in the world. We know that they completely redid their training and youth grounds. It's kind of funny because it seems like they're doing everything right if you are Tottenham in the football manager world. Let's see if it works out in the real world too. Yeah,
trying to do Moneyball.
Kind of, in a little bit of a way. It'll be interesting to see if it pays off now and in the future.
Yep. So we'll see what happens with both Chelsea and Tottenham. One last thing here. So Ismail Kone to Olympic Marseille is done. It's 12.5 million rather, a euro fee plus some add-ons. And once again, him and De Zerbi, I think it could be something special.
Yeah. Now, before we go, one thing that we should mention, a piece of business that happened earlier today with Vancouver's upcoming women's team that's going to be in the Northern Super League.
I got the press release.
Did you mention this already?
No, I did not.
Okay. Sinead King has been named as the new CBO of the club. She's going to be working very, very close with Stephanie Labbe, who's already there, head of the women's operations. King is going to be the general manager of women's soccer for the new Vancouver team, which name has yet to be determined.
CBO,
yeah.
Chief Business Officer.
She most recently was the director of partnership engagement with Canada Plastics Pact, and was also the global head of operations for HSBC. Big multinational bank. So, in terms of being an executive that works with partnerships, she definitely fits that model. It's going to be interesting to see how that transfers into the sporting world. But she's also going to be working with Stephanie Labbe, and in terms of women's soccer and just, sport in general, you can feel that there is the potential for a very good partnership at the highest level for Vancouver women's soccer that could be set up. So, yeah. Axel Schuster had mentioned also a couple of weeks ago that while there is no name, there's nothing to do with rosters. In the next 1 to 2 months, we could see a lot more being reported on the women's side for not the Whitecaps, but for Vancouver.
Yeah, and the King has a soccer background. She was the captain of the University of Nottingham team, and she's played in the academies of both Southampton and Chelsea. So so she was also made in Cobham.
There you go. Right there you go. Awesome. I like that even better.
Yeah, so it looks like a good hire, and we'll see what comes up with Vancouver's and Northern Super League team. So that concludes this week's episode.
Just a second before we go, and take this with a grain of salt. Oh, no, this is old news. I thought I had something that was England news, but it's old. So carry on.
Yeah, so that concludes this week's episode. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Long one, this one. Had a lot to talk about. Follow me on Twitter at JoshuaRay00. Nathan is at Enduric. Podcast is at Terminal City FC. We will cover the rest of Copa America, Whitecaps, Euros for the website and with this podcast. And we'll see what the Whitecaps do in the transfer window. Hello to everyone joining us live. Sorry for the fire alarms and the interruptions.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Podcast will be edited down. Will be out as soon as possible, like this afternoon. So that concludes this week's episode. Peace out.
Take care.